Alright, so the Fatundura campaign has been stalling for quite a few sessions now. I made some definite mistakes, ignoring Krokgar in favor of going after Scarbrand. And also, to be honest, the longer I've thought about this, the more I see alternative ways that this campaign should have gone, and mistakes I made. I really should have gave more settlements to Tutankhamun. Having a strong AI ally in the early to mid game is very, very helpful, really. This Araby to Tomb King culture meter, I should have gone down the Araby side as soon as possible to get those faction buffs as soon as possible. When Krokgar declared war on me, even though I would have had to trespass to go fight him, I should have done it. Even though I would have had to be taking settlements in a climate that is not great for me, I should have done it. And most importantly of all, for a guy like me who wants to play lorefully, I was probably just going to have to swallow that bitter pill that I was going to have to go down and fight the Lizardmen, even though lorefully there's not really much good reason for Krokgar to declare war on me. But at the end of the day, I didn't make any of those choices. I went for Scarbrand because I was worried about Scarbrand, because expanding into the Badlands made sense lorefully, it made sense for my climate, and it was a mistake. And to be frank, here I am about, well, probably a little bit less than 2 days away from the release of Thrones of Decay, which will invalidate my save. I'm just honestly not interested in playing this campaign out of the stalemate position I've got myself stuck in, and in the limited time before the release of Thrones of Decay. Sadly, my schedule has just been very tight for the last few weeks. So, I am not going to do that. I don't want to just abruptly end the series with the last part, though. I do want to have some degree of finale here. But, I'm not going to do it legit. See, I got up here the console commands mod. And what I'm going to do, give me just a moment. What I'm going to do is there are two cheats. One refills a army's movement and the other heals it. And I'm just going to, for a laugh, go on a rampage with Fatundira here. And she is going to annihilate a multitude of foes. And Fatundira, by herself, will conquer the world. Now, let's see here. For curiosity's sake, can I restore her movement when she's sitting in a settlement after occupying it? Oh my god. So, yes, I am going to use cheats to mess around the world and have a laugh. Now, let's also go ahead and really quickly heal her up. Oh, hang on. Let's see, did that work? Yes, it did. Okay. And I guess I'll talk a little bit about what went wrong. Well, I think I've already talked about what's gone wrong. I was definitely very excited to start this playthrough, though I did it knowing that Fatundira's campaign in Warhammer 2 was not terrifically easy. And I will say, like, with the Warhammer 2 campaign, I played very defensively, very conservatively. And I knew to avoid that, because that's just not a very exciting way to do things. But in the end, I still made a mistake that ensured that the campaign would turn rather disappointing and boring at a point. I certainly intend to come back someday, though. Perhaps on recording, perhaps off recording. And play Fatundira again properly once I've shaken off some of the rust. Some of these mistakes I've made have just been kind of rookie mistakes. Or perhaps not rookie mistakes, but not the kind of mistakes I would make before. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. When you walk away from the game for a few months, you're going to be not in peak condition. And yes, it appears I can just rampage all around the place. All around the shop. Okay, I'm glad I found this. This is an amusing thing to do. And I'm unlocking regiments of renown all the while. So, and I'm rampaging all over these poor Fimir. They're endangered enough, really. And, like, these aren't necessarily even the chaotic variety. Well, they're spreading chaos corruption, but, like, if you go off the, there was an excellent little semi-canon. Well, no, it wasn't really canon. There was, for the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay fan magazine, which the name escapes me, but there was a supplement made for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay way back in the first edition days for playing as the Fimir. And that, immediately raises some questions, because if you know about Fimir lore, then you know that the reason why they have historically not been used too much. While there's a lot of creative things about them, there is notoriously one element to their lore that is very, very creepy in a way that's not fun and fantasy and grimdark at all. It's just, well, it's definitely grimdark, but not in a fun fantasy way like Warhammer's supposed to be about. But, nonetheless, it was made, but sadly canned, as Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition came to an end, and it was passed over to Second Edition. But nonetheless, the Fimir supplement was eventually made available via that fan magazine. And it was very difficult for me to get my hands on it and read it, but I was able to, and it's a very good read. And ever since I've read that, I've quite liked the Fimir. I find them interesting, at least in that version of the lore. Of course, the Fimir could also be, it's not official Fimir lore, so. But nonetheless, a depiction of the Fimir as a very sympathetic and tragic people who are apathetic to the Chaos Gods because the Chaos Gods abandoned them and instead are more interested in the more neutral demons and gods of chaos, more outside of that usual realm, outside of the usual four of Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh. I dug that lore quite a bit, so it feels a little bit bad to beat up on some Fimir out in the swamps, particularly because the OVN Fimir lore does draw a lot from that particular... Whoop. Not sure if I did that correctly. Give me just a second. Yes, it did. Okay. I guess ultimately all Fimir are still evil by nature of how they procreate, but nonetheless, I do feel bad about that. Because there is a definite element of tragedy to them, even in the mainline Warhammer Fantasy lore. And now, should I beat on Archon? I suppose I should beat on Archon. Though I'll start by avoiding his settlement, his main army. I'll have to recruit some regiments of renown, I think, to deal with him himself. Let's see. Boy, Torox and Scarbrand ain't got shit on this. Cheating. Shock of shocks, it's powerful. And I will encroach upon the actual proper lands of Araby. So, this was one thing that, sadly, I just didn't get to do. A combination of things, being pulled in all different ways throughout the campaign, as well as the lands being taken up by Archon, who was the one powerful player at the board who was moderately permitting of my existence, kind of prevented me from moving in to the west and fighting Archon and fighting Reponse and taking back the proper lands of Araby. And that made me sad, because I was excited to rebuild Araby's, proper borders and their proper city-states. But now I'm encroaching, and I'm going to have to cross the Blood River Valley. I'm probably... not even the Blood River Valley, but the Blood River itself. Not the Blood River. The Blood River is way up to the northeast between the Border Princes and Badlands. This is the River Mortis, very creatively named. Used to be the River Vitae, also very creatively named. I guess the Nehekarns were just like that. Also, I guess the Nehekarns just spoke, Latin. Or classical, as it's supposed to be in Warhammer world. And do not ford the River Mortis, apparently. Ooh. I've never tried, and I guess it shouldn't be surprising how difficult it is. There we go, and we're finally through it. Now we can help ourselves to the heartland of Archon's entire empire, while he is frozen in time and can do nothing to help. Nothing to help himself. And now, we've even taken his house. And, let's see, we get on to, yeah, this border region here. You know, this particular region here, the Cracked Land, there we go. Al-Khalabad, Zandri, Pools of Despair, Black Jar of Archon. In Warhammer 2, Zandri was considered part of the same province as, I think, Khemri? I could be wrong. And it was one thing that I thought felt odd and kind of stuck out. Well, let me get rid of a couple of these guys and replace them with Regiments of Renown.
At your service.
Let's see, what's the most advanced Regiments of Renown we can pick up? I'll take an elephant. Is that the remainder of our rare points? What is it that is blocking us from recruiting these guys? Oh, this takes 3 rare points. Okay, excuse me. In which case, well, we won't be using the remainder of our rare points. But we'll be helping, ourselves to these Sipahis. But I always thought it was odd shifting Zandri over here. Kriv Assembly very clearly didn't want to implement Araby into Total War Warhammer for a variety of reasons. I'm sure that part of them are Games Workshop related, and there are other things going on. And as a result, there wasn't too much, understandably, there wasn't too much focus given to separating the Arabian and Nehekaran borders properly with the provinces and regions being aligned as such. So that is one thing that stuck out to me as soon as I saw the Immortal Empires map cut down to the provinces, is Zandri now being put, Zandri and Al-Khalabad being put in the same province, where Al-Khalabad is rightful, Arabian territory, or Araby territory, while Zandri is rightful Tomb King territory, if one is to even consider the idea of rightful territory valid. But then that gets into real-life politics, and we won't be getting into that here. Now, once I take Zandri, I'm going to go back and look at the Pools of Despair again. So, I do have all of the OVN team's mods on, and you can tell because the Pools of Despair is a Greek kind of Acropolis instead of the usual Tomb King settlement. And look at the beautiful little settlements we get for Araby on the map. Oh, I love them. They look so good. But nonetheless, yeah, that was one thing that always stuck out to me. Especially, it's one thing that stuck out to me. As Araby, you want to hold a few Tomb King territories, just so you can get the the archaeology buildings. But if you, as Fatandira, for instance, wanted to make sure that Tutankhamun gets the Tomb King lands, while you, as Fatandira, get the Araby lands, you wouldn't quite be able to portion it out properly for that.
King and country.
King and country, exactly. I forgot the High Elves had such an explicit line. Just making it absolutely clear that the High Elves are supposed to be Warhammer's version of England. Oh, we've got the Ravager of Al-Khalabad. Should we get rid of a few units to make space for it? The Wogzen take up a rare point. I'm going to bet the Ravager takes up 3 rare points. Yes, it does. Well, in that case, let's see. We can go ahead and get rid of a unit. Let's get rid of some Camel Lancers and replace it with something a little more exotic. Let's see. The Howling Basilisk Bombard. That sounds cool. Alright, let's heal these guys up once again. And continue our little tour of this side of the world. Al-Haik, the capital of Araby.
Princess of the Asur.
And it looks like it. My god, look at how big and beautiful it is. Firus, the birthplace and final resting place, at least in this mod, of Mullah Ackland, who is just named after Tony Ackland, the real-life Games Workshop artist, one of the major early Games Workshop influences. And that is also where we get the name for the Mullah Auckland Death Commandos, which were one of the original regiments were known on the tabletop, going way back to the early editions. I think first edition even, or possibly second. And here in the Araby mod, they are available right there. Mullah Auckland's Death Commandos. There we go. So I shall continue this rampage down to Martek, the city of iron in the mountains. Now, the proper lore for Araby, I believe Martek is the one that's kind of left out, not being talked about too much other than that it's a pretty horrible slave state, which is just about the same description the lore gives for La Shaik, if memory serves. The OVN team did do a very cool twist with it by making it a Beastmaster kind of culture-focused area. So, that's all very cool. And let's see, what's the borders looking? Well, we're about to be pulled into a battle. There we go. We'll take Kofair. Now we'll occupy it. And now we've got a coast of Araby. Let me take a look at the landmarks here, now that I think about it. Now, Kofair, I assume it's the same old for landmarks. Now, where is it? Oh, well, of course, it's the port of Kofair. The same landmark everybody gets. Amusingly, it even lists 20 slaves per turn, even though Fatandura doesn't get slaves. Virus should have, yes, the Tomb of Mullah Auckland. Whew, that's a lot of corruption loss. And +5 control faction wide. Whew, that's a good landmark. And here in Al Haik, we get the Palace of the Great Sultan. Just about the usual capital landmark. Yeah, that's about what you'd anticipate. Though I do notice now, it seems like Al Haik has its own... Yes, it does. It has its own unique main settlement building. Which does seem to generate more money. That's quite nice for Jafar when he starts there. Jafar would have been the more logical choice for me to play, really. Which I think I knew even back then, when I had first started this playthrough. But I just was hesitant, because I'm more interested in playing Fatandira. She's a more interesting character to me. Jafar's just kind of a generic bad guy. I don't know. He can't turn into a genie, though, in this mod, which is pretty sick.
Of course.
And when will I stop abusing my power? Maybe it's once I've fully reunited the lands of Araby. That sounds like a good place to stop. Then I'll look back at these lands and... Well, I don't know how I'll wrap things up from there. Whoops, don't heal 200. There's no such thing as 200% health. There we go. This is the ordeal here. There's a degree of impotence to this. I recognize that this is not the ideal way to end this. I want to present some kind of ending to this, no matter what, but I recognize that on most regards, this is a failure. Fundamentally. I did not succeed on the campaign. I was somewhere around 12. Oh, actually, yeah, I guess I'll just keep going until I hit the quote-unquote victory. But I believe I was somewhere around 12 settlements occupied, looted, sacked, or razed before I started this recording. Something like that. And that is not quite close to victory. But, at the end of the day, it is my YouTube channel, and I want to stick to stuff that I find entertaining, not only to record, but that not only entertaining videos to put up. Well, I'm not really prioritizing that too much. I got plenty of boring videos on here. But I do want to prioritize that I have fun. After all, I want to stick to stuff that I would do on my own, independently, regardless of YouTube. And sometimes I'll just upload it. If anyone wants to watch it, then they can watch it. If nobody wants to watch it, then they don't have to watch it.
Victory for the Asur.
And so that's why I'm kind of accepting failure here and just messing around to have something to wrap this up a little more properly than just not uploading anything at all.
It shall be done.
But it had got to a definitive stalemate point that I think was really sticking out like a sore thumb. the longer and longer it went on. By the time I took Death Gorge from Scarbrand, things had gotten quite bad. So, I'm, enjoying myself doing this, so that's an improvement over the alternative, I say.
Victory for Asturian.
Now, for Thrones of Decay coming to think of it, I definitely intend to make some videos for that. How many, I do not know. I'll certainly be taking a look at each of the 3 campaigns off recording. I'll probably do it on recording as well. I did do that for Shadows of Change, didn't I? I will say out of the 3 of them, Malachi's is perhaps the one I find least interesting. I'm not a fan of quest battles, personally. I've just not had a good time with them in the past. To me, most of the quest battles I've been unfortunate. I'm sure that many of them are really good. And I know people who are really big fans of quest battles. But the ones I've played have historically just been about spawning elite enemies on all sides of your army. And I don't know, I don't doomstack enough for that playstyle to really seem like fun. Then again, that's almost certainly entirely my fault. And hey, we got the Eidolon Mountains, which are not even named on many maps. I forget, where were the Eidolon Mountains first named in the lore? I don't even know where the name comes from. Nonetheless, we got Vulture Mountain in the Eye of the Panther. Now, Vulture Mountain, I don't believe, has a logical justification for why it is named that in the proper tabletop lore. The OVN mod team gave it the name, and justified the name on basis of, well, there are giant vultures that live there, and Araby gets them as part of their roster.
Triumph for Ulfuin.
But I don't remember the tabletop having that. Nonetheless,
Assur we fight.
we proceed onto the Great Desert of Araby, which does Araby get a unique... Araby does not get a unique building here. I suppose that makes sense. It would be kind of odd. Well, no, the Tomb Kings get a unique landmark here, don't they? And it provides something insane, like perfect vigor for all Ushabti units or something absurd. Like, downright overpowered, if memory serves. Oh well. And thus we proceed west to the Wizard Caliph's palace. After that, we will be hitting a string of settlements which were not part of the base game Immortal Empires map, but added in Immortal Empires Extended by one Chaos Roby. Love the dude.
For order.
Let's take the Wizard Caliph's palace real quick, and let's see. Do we get a landmark here? We probably would. Yes, we do. The Wizard Caliph. Yeah, that's one guy who popped up in the lore. He's got the whole settlement named after him.
I serve
But,
Phoenix.
there's not really anything else to that lore other than that he exists. So I've always been curious about the idea of what exactly that's supposed to mean, who this dude is. And now we head into Sud and Akaba, which I believe exist in the lore. Sud definitely rings a bell. Akaba, not so much. I forget, is it supposed to be around this region that the city of Aer is supposed to be? I believe that city goes back to really old days of Warhammer. One of the oldest novels set in the Warhammer universe. Possibly even before Black Library? I don't know that much about the history of Black Library, though, so shouldn't speak to things I don't know.
Glory
Ah, valiant defeat. I can fix that.
for Asturian.
Fuck it, we're cheating.
By the god. Assur to battle.
And there we go. I guess I should say, out of politeness' sake, I actually haven't looked at the viewership numbers for the other videos here. Perhaps there are none. Perhaps I'm making a video for nobody. In which case, I don't mind. However, if there were a substantial amount of people, which by my standards is like, 5, who saw the previous videos and were hoping for more of a more legitimate finale and not this, I will say that I'm sorry. That I failed to live up to expectations in that regard. I think I did in the very first video say it wasn't, oh, there we go, short victory completed. Well, I gotta get these couple summons going on. I'm this close. I gotta kill this guy. I gotta type in those magical letters Kill, and oh, he's gone. Ooh.
Lady
But yeah, I'm sorry about that. I will say that just out loud, that I made a variety of mistakes that led to a more underwhelming
Azur
scenario near the end. But at the same time, I think I did say in the very first episode that it was not a guarantee that I was going to finish this. Well, I guess actually, I guess I have finished this. Just not in any real way. What's the garrison of the Black Pyramid look like? I can do that. Screw it, I'll have it.
Phoenix King. Onward.
And yeah, we're getting pretty close to fully painting Araby proper. Well, actually, we do have all of Araby proper. The only lands left that I want to go ahead and take off Archon here are the Black Pyramid, which is not in Araby territory. It's really more Nagakarn than anything, or really it's more Nagash than anything. And Sudenburg and the Plain of Tuskers, which are Imperial territory. Well, they were. I'll hit them in Volkmar's memory. There was one thing that also stuck out. That Volkmar was not being too friendly, and even once me and him got on good terms,
Had I watch over
well, he went and died, the prick. So that was unfortunate.
King and country.
But while there were definitely some things that went on that were bad luck, a lot of it lies in, the blame lays at my feet.
At your service.
But that's enough moaning. Let's move on down to the southwest, and let's take Sudenburg.
To battle.
Now, wasn't there some Sudenburg lore that came out in the tabletop edition, the tabletop roleplay edition, fairly recently? And by recently, I mean in the last couple of years, which I mean for 30 to 40 years of Warhammer Fantasy lore, I guess that is pretty recent. Something about Sudenburg's connection to Araby.
None shall live.
I don't know. Either way, well, I guess I don't know. It's difficult to say, because sometimes I get things mixed up. There was, for quite a while, on the Warhammer Fantasy wiki, and I think there actually still, it should still be there. The Warhammer Fantasy fandom wiki, in keeping with the typical quality of a fandom wiki, there was I guess you could say vandalism. Vandalism on a lot of the Araby wiki pages. That's not to say that somebody just went and drew dicks everywhere and put their name on things. Bart was here.
Princess of the Azur.
So much as it is that there was somebody going around writing in their own Araby lore on those wiki pages. And a lot of people got fooled into thinking that that was canon for a good while, including myself. Until I finally started, or rather stopped reading wikis and just going directly to the source wherever possible. And I found out, oh, there's a lot less information available on Araby than the vandalized wiki pages would have you believe. But, yeah, if memory serves, at some point during that, there was part of that guy's lore that he made for Araby did include something about them just casually handing off the lands of Sudenburg to the Empire. I found that a bit sus even before I found out that it was made up.
Azur rejoice.
Okay, so yeah, we've hit the 30 for the short victory, and I'm not going for the 75 for the long victory. It'd just be a lot of clicking here. Instead, I just get to look on these lands which I have wrongfully earned. Ah. It's a pretty picture, even if it was cheated in. I definitely want to come back to Araby in some capacity. It may be that I just get more practice in with Fatundira on her campaign specifically, or maybe I give Jafar a run. This mod is too good for how mediocre of a LP I have done in the last few parts, and I do want to get around to fixing that at some point. But a multitude of things occurred, and so I've decided to wrap it here. And look at that cool castle out in the sands. That's cool. Yeah, someday I'll be back for this, and I'll do it properly. I'll do it right. And I'll be back for Mr. Mahmoud here. Who, if there's anyone who I am deeply shamed to have, if there's anyone here that I have failed, it is Mahmoud Al-Nabi. So, on that, well, I suppose I was going to say on that note, but I think I've pleaded my case and pretty well wrapped things up as best as I'm going to with the power of cheats, other than looking to see if the console commands have, like, I don't know, a nuclear bomb I can drop. Didn't seem so when I was looking at the page. You know, maybe if I was playing Skaven. But, yeah, with all this wishy-washing around, I'm just trying to get around to finding a nice way to say I'm going to wrap up the video. But I'm not finding it. Because this is going to end on a sad and disappointing wet fart of a underwhelming ending. Perfectly fitting to how I've handled it so far. And I will suppose I will see y'all with the next disappointing, underwhelming ending. I'm sorry. Alright. Anyways, yeah, hopefully the next comment, I'm getting real tongue-tied here by my sheer amount of shame. Oh. But yeah, anyways, yes. Let me tie this up really quickly. I think I'm making it really obvious that I'm not confident in this, but I think I just need to throw out a finale. Is that not clear already? Well, it should be clear now. Alright. Later. Ugh.